Well met. This has been Brode, and you're watching Born to be
Cosmo.
Oh, snap.
Welcome to Born to be Cosmo, a Marvel Snap card game podcast. Wow, I didn't do that one so well tonight, huh? Where we talk about all things related to Marvel Snap and where I flub intros. I, of course, am joined by my two co-conspirators and partners in crime, Nate Wolfe and ZombiesGoNomNom. Cosmo is a twice-monthly podcast, except when it's not. We usually stream on Saturday, except when we don't. So happy to be joining you today, a day late on a Sunday. For the record, I was the cause of us being tardy, and I'm not sorry. So there you have it.
Cosmo.
That's right.
Keep it
That's
Cosmo.
right.
But I am happy that we managed to stick around this time, and I think that we've got quite a bit to talk about, even though we've met for the last 2 weeks in a row. So I propose that we dive in with the latest Marvel Snap news and talk about what is to come tomorrow.
Oh, news. Yeah.
Time for...
This just in. Breaking news. Live from the Daily Bugle. Parker!
Oh, dear. Yep.
Got to get those bumpers.
Parker!
Get our money's worth.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so I mean, tonight is the last night in North America, at least, for the current season. And tomorrow night, in precisely 24 hours and 12 minutes, we will be rolling into the Spider-Verse season. That's going to feature quite a bit of cool stuff, some new cards, some changes in terms of the cards that are being released and how they're being released. And of course, introducing an entirely new competitive game mode, which I think we're gonna cover. There's a lot of interesting things to talk about there, but I thought we'd start by assessing what is all in the Battle Pass package. Generally speaking, if you're not a free-to-play player, obviously, but a budget-minded player, the Battle Pass generally offers the most value in terms of cards, cosmetics, and other goodies. So, Zombies, why don't you take us through all the wonderful things that we will get tomorrow night?
Sure. Yeah, so Ghost Spider is the new Season Pass card. She was Dynamite a long time ago, but got buffed a little bit. So she's a 2/3, and she moves... She moves the last card you played to her location.
Yeah.
And it's neat. I don't know. I mean, you guys saw the video they put out for the dev update, and I loved all the animations that all the spider cards got, both Ghost Spider and all the other ones that are coming up.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good.
They look really great. The timing's really good because they just put out into the Spider-Verse movie. I still have to see that because I love the first one. Or Across the Spider-Verse, I think that's what it's called. We're gonna... So it's all Spider-Man stuff this season. We're getting variants for Spider-Man and Miles, as well as Ghost Spider 2. I love the Miles one is like my favorite.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It's fantastic. It's really, really good. And Miles is seeing a bit more play now, and he might even see even further play with Ghost Spider, right? Because makes him easier to be a 1-cost 5 power, which is pretty good. I also really love the card backs are sweet this season. I wonder which one. I mean, maybe they already know with data mines, but I wonder which one is going to be the gold. I imagine it's going to be the 2099, because that might be easier.
If I had to guess, it'd probably that one, but I don't know. Yeah, it's tricky to guess.
Well, if we look at what they did in with the animals season. They took the darker themed one and made that
That's
one.
That's what I figure, right? Like they can just they can turn the red into gold, whereas like Ghost Spider would be a little trickier, right?
Yeah, they'd have to turn like the pink into gold, maybe, or turn the white into gold. It would look kind of weird.
It would look strange. Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll see. But that's aside the point. This season looks really cool. I think the one thing about this though is Ghost Spider Obviously we're going to try a bunch of neat stuff with her tomorrow, but it's going to be one of those cards where we're not going to see its full potential until like as the season progresses. I don't know if we know the order yet or not on when the cards are releasing. But depending on the main two that synergize with her are going to be Silk and Spider-Man 2099, who actually works a little bit differently than we initially thought. And so I think he's actually a little bit worse because there was some wording confusion. So with his wording, they were basically saying, first time this moves to a location, destroy an enemy card there. So how me and a lot of other people interpreted that is the first time he moves to a location, he blows something up there, and that applies to each location. That turns out to not be the case. It's just a one-time. It's just a one-time thing.
They're crap. Crap.
Yeah.
Mega crap.
So that's a little unfortunate because I think that does make this card worse. Will it still be tried in the move stuff? I'm sure it will. And hey, I mean,
it's still a 4/6, but like that makes the card so much. Well,
the wording's just poor too. Like I feel like everyone thought it worked the way I just explained it, and then when they explained it, it was like I don't know. I think it just needs to be worded more clearly because I think a lot of people are going to be confused by this interaction when it comes out.
Yeah, it makes the card significantly less exciting than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, for sure.
If it only works one time, because then you don't want to.
Shang-Chi with extra steps and a chance to hit something small.
And super RNG, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, 3 extra power for all that downside. Is that worth it?
Well, I don't know. And it's not...
Zabu deck will make it work somehow. You never know.
It's not like an on reveal or anything either. It's just static wording, and so you can't copy it with like Absman or anything like that. It's just like it's like a one-time deal.
It's like, you get a 4/6 and you're going to blow up one of your opponent's cards. Now we know I use 3K. Yeah. So there was a lot of speculation on which card was going to be the Series 5 card. But as we can see on this nice graph from Snap Zone, Silk is our lone Series 5 card this month, aside from Nebula, if you didn't get the pass. And then Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Ham are going to be launching in Series 4. So that's super cool. We've been asking for them to do this for forever, and it actually does feel pretty big that like basically 2 of the 3 non-season pass cards this season are Series 4, because not only will more people pick them up because of them being less tokens, but more people will open them. So you can just you'll just have a lot more people playing the card. I think they're also going to be introducing that mission system where if you buy a new card, you're going to get some missions that you can do with the card to get tokens back. So that will hopefully help reduce the cost even further. But I'm very excited to see how people kind of react to the system, because this part is really great. The part that people had a problem with was like them messing with rotation. So we also get to see what happens with rotation this month. Are they going to rotate stuff down? Are they going to say it's a skip a month kind of month? I think it's time for Jeff to go down to Series 4, as well as a few other cards according to the old schedule. So we'll see. But
surprised Jeff is not a big bad.
Yeah, I still think he could be a big good or just a big Jeff. Yeah, I'm excited for the cards that are coming this month. Silk is definitely my favorite. It's a shame Spider-Man 2099 seems a bit worse, but I'm sure people are going to make the card work and do some fun stuff regardless. And then Spider-Ham I think is like the sleeper. I think people are going to hate this card a lot, but it's going to be really amusing, and it's going to I think there are a lot of decks right now that have like a big 6-cost thing that they're trying to do, whether that be Hulk or Galactus, or just a lot of decks, Doom, have a big 6-cost card to close out the game.
Right.
So if Spider-Ham can hit that for 1 cost, and maybe in a bounce shell has the potential to hit more than one thing, depending on what the highest cost card in your hand is, I think there's a lot of potential for this card, and I think he might actually be the most significant impact to the metagame, though I think Silk is going to be really good as well in an already good deck, in Sera. Going to be good. I think Silk's just going to be good in a lot of stuff. 2/5 is very powerful. And
Yeah.
especially enabling some of the move synergy cards that we haven't seen as much in a while. Like Kraven's going to be a really crazy one, I think.
You know what's really funny? I'm prepping for like a side project, and I've been reading a bunch of comics, and it's silly to me, but like Kraven and also like the Vulture are actually like major villains in the Spider verse, you know, and so the fact that those two cards in particular interact with the move, like the move cards or the Spider-Man move cards, is pretty funny to me, just from a lore perspective. Sorry,
Nate's our resident lore guy now. I like it. Blutrane's favorite.
Hey, that's fun. It's fun. I heard something today. I read it on the internet, so it must be true, that Spider Ham reveals what you hit, at least initially, and I don't know if that's intended or not, but that you get to well, I read it on Twitter, so I don't know if it's true, but somebody said that at least initially that it was going to show you what card it hit.
That would be really big for in terms of information and knowing what you like, what they had, and what you no longer have to play around. That would make the card even better,
right? If that's true, which I don't know if it is, but like
in the dev video, I'll look it up right now.
But
they did say that if you Spider Ham and you ham a card, and then you play another Spider Ham, it will reham the ham if it's
only if it's the biggest, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder what happens if you have 2 6-cost.
You know what happens.
It always is spam.
It's a 50-50. Yeah, this Spider Ham's going to be an important card. I can't help but feel that this is going to be the answer to nerfing Galactus and High Evo. Although, I mean, they already have the patch ready to go more than likely. So I am curious if they're going to hit Galactus on top of just unleashing Spider Ham into Series 4.
Those monsters. I bet you anything that the play rate has gone down since High Evo. No, has it not?
Of Galactus?
Yeah.
It's gone up, actually.
Oh.
It's funny. There was a dev comment about it, or like a Q&A thing, and someone's like, why are you nerfing Galactus when it has low win rate? Why not hit something like Spider-Man, because that's what everyone hates, and it has high win rate? And then Glenn said something along the lines of, Galactus doesn't have a low win rate right now, and 2, Spider-Man doesn't actually have that high of a win rate. He's just being like the closer after the Galactus turn. So it was kind of funny to see.
Okay, I mean,
on Untapped right now at Infinite, Galactus has a 6.6% play rate, which makes it the 4th most played archetype, 2 of which are High Evo archetypes in the first 2 places. Excuse me, the 3rd most played after the 2 High Evo stuff. My bad. It has a 53% win rate, which is quite high, and a 0.25% average cube rate, which puts it squarely into Tier 1, 5 from the top deck. Now, I don't really like to look at average cubes. There's a lot of people who do. It has a win rate to match its cube rate. So that's at Infinite. If we look at ranks 80 to 99, Galactus jumps from a 6.6% play rate all the way to a staggering 13.1% play rate. Actually, it's 1% lower than it was, or 0.9% lower. Its win rate drops from 53% to 50.4%. But that is a really high play rate. It is almost as high as, well, never mind. They split High Evo in 2, but it's as high as the good High Evo deck. So it's still seeing a lot of play, I guess is what I'm saying. And I've seen anecdotally more of it at Infinite, and it's a good deck to farm at Infinite because a lot of people have just stopped playing Galactus hate, so
yeah, well, and also I think people I'm just like in Infinite, I'm just booster farming, and so even if someone snaps or whatever and I don't have like the follow-up, like I'll just play it anyways because I don't really care, and I'd rather get the boosters than worry about the cubes. So I don't know, I mean, not everyone plays that way, but until there's like leaderboards, it's like I don't see the downside.
People hate, well,
I know they do.
People hate Galactus. It does have a very high play rate. I don't know. I think that to me, like, Spider Ham is naturally, it's not going to be guaranteed against it, but like at the same time, it's gonna
Pretty
hurt
impactful.
because you're gonna hit. Okay, if you don't hit Galactus, you'll hit Null or Death. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you don't hit the win con, you hit the way that it projects power.
The funny
Also
thing
think it's
is,
gonna-
oh, I was just gonna say, like, hitting Null or Death are probably even more impactful, right? Because then Death becomes unplayable because then the energy cost won't reduce, and Null will just be a 6 mana like 0.
it will be a
So-
6/0.
And
Yeah,
Death will be a 9/12 that you can't play.
So maybe they just what they do is they push out Spider Ham first. I don't know. It's also
Oh.
going to be good against high Evo, because Hulk smashes.
Oh god,
and,
the Hulk is everywhere. Yeah.
Hulk will become Pig Hulk, which is just like vanilla Hulk.
Yep, true that.
So-
Oh man, I've got Pixel Cyclops in my shop tonight. And I think it's like one of the few pixels I'm missing for. I have most of the high Evo cards. In
Oh
Pixel.
god, a full pixel high Evo.
Yeah,
oh, you
I'm
have
just
to.
missing, like, Misty
You
Knight
madman.
and Misty Knight and Cyclops. I think are the only two I'm missing.
I have
all the
both of
other
those as
cards.
pixels. I'm really curious to
Yeah,
see how these
funny.
Spider-Man cards are going to be. I'm super hyped about them just because I really enjoy the comics and the movies and all of that, and so I've been saving my tokens up, and I have enough to get all of them. I'm so excited to play with them, even if they're not very good. They're so iconic that I think they're going to be fun,
I
if
think
nothing
people
else.
are gonna like them, yeah. Like even if they don't end up being good, I mean, maybe they will be better than.
In a
than
worst
we,
case scenario, like
Who knows?
talking stats for the cost, like they're really good. So even if they don't play out right, or like you don't necessarily need to play them in a move deck, not really. Or what if you play them in like a lane lock deck where like you lock down the lanes, but then you can still pop cards into them? Maybe. I mean, with Storm you could, I guess not with Professor X, but like it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting if nothing else. I think it's going to be pretty fun. So
I loved how in the video Ben Brode pointed out it's like she can even move cards left or right. She can even move cards right because like so many of the move things like Heimdall and
oh
whatnot,
right.
they all go left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, his video was so great, like
It was
Reporter
so good.
Broad, and
You gotta
actually,
watch
like
it if you haven't seen it.
good nod to the multiverse when like Ben Brode meets Ben Brode. It was so funny and it's so like on brand, and they've done a good job. So last month we got Guardians of the Galaxy that was timed to release with the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie, and now we're getting the Spider-Verse to be themed with, or right in time with, a new Spider-Verse movie that's just coming out. So
Yeah, it's good cross promotional marketing, that's for sure. Like it definitely you capitalize on like, oh hey, people are interested in this character. Well, we have a whole like season about it, and definitely makes a lot of sense when they can line it up like that.
oh, the Kim Jacinto Electro is coming to the shop, and I'm buying it so fast.
That's an ultimate, I believe.
It is. I've been waiting for that one for ages, though. That's
It's
the
a cool one.
The problem
very
with all the
cool.
data mine stuff is that like we see it so early, and
Yeah.
none of it's in the game, and it's like, I mean, half the stuff on Snapzone or Untapped or whatever, they're not in the game yet, and so it's like, oh, when's that coming? But
Like even the Thanos, we found out about it, and it was like, oh, it's launching, and then it didn't even launch till like the next month or something. So yeah, it's kind of weird how that goes. But they showed off some of the. I'm hoping they don't put any of the Ghost Spider Venom ones in the ultimate slot because I think those are really neat, and I want to grab one of those. She has like 2 or 3 different.
there'll
Venom
be
ones,
a
but I guess it
couple
makes
because
sense.
there's an Art Germ one that
Yeah,
I'm
the
sure will
Archer
be.
one is really really good. I know that one.
So without getting too much into it, they call it like, so the Venomized version of Ghost Spider is a major plot point in her story, and so it makes sense now, because at first I saw it and I was like, why is there 3 or 4 different variants of the Venom version? And then I read the comics and I was like, oh, okay, well, it makes sense. It's like major storyline issue that like fundamentally changes the character for like the ongoing series, and so it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, yeah, I think there's so many. There's at least 3, right? That some of them will probably be ultimate. At least the Archer
Yeah,
one. And
maybe one of them. We'll see. I'm gonna hold out hope that it's not because I don't. I mean, I have the tokens. I could.
no,
get
it's
it, I
but
don't
like
want
if you have to get the gold, like it's like $20, right? It's like buying a $20 variant, which
Yeah.
if you're super into it, like okay, but it adds up very quickly. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like I have variants I like for like most of the cards now, so I'm usually just holding out for some of the new ones as they release. Like I was lucky and like I got a variant for High Evo, which was cool.
oh, that's cool.
Still waiting on Kitty Pride though.
We are getting the Miles
got
the
you
Miles
beat there.
bundle this month as well, which should be kind of fun too.
That one's neat. It's coming with a card back, which is a first. I'm probably passing on it because I like the pass variant a lot, and the variants are definitely what sell me on the bundles.
I wonder if at some point like they could do a thing where you could like randomize the variant, like
I'm
when
sure at
Hearthstone,
some point.
randomized the hero portrait, you could randomize the
Yeah.
variant or something.
At some
like-
point, they're gonna have to do something like that because, like, think about how many variants you have now. Imagine how many you'll have in like a year or something like that. Like, it's just you accumulate, even if you're not like buying a lot of stuff, you just naturally accumulate variants.
Yeah. So these ones that we are getting through the pass, looking at them real quick, we got the Spider-Man and Ghost Spider variants. It's Ghost Spider 2099 and the Miles Morales with the boombox, really cool. And then we've got a Spider-Man and a Miles portrait, and then the Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider and Spider-Man 2099 card backs. So should be pretty cool if you like Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be pretty hype season because I mean a lot of people seem to really be enjoying the new movie. I'm gonna try and see that this coming week. Looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
Father's Day is coming up. I might drag my family along and make them take me to see it next weekend.
Yeah, that's good
I'm,
excuse as any.
So I'm not super hot on this one, but I think that like the battle pass just in general is good. Like there's got to be something in there that you like. Like I'm not too fond on Ghost Spider. I don't like the Miles Morales boombox variant. I don't like the outlier there, but I like the Spider-Man one. I think that's a good Spider-Man variant. I'd use that. And the card backs are sweet. And you also get all the boosters, which is funny because I find myself clamoring for more boosters these days. The
always.
mystery variants, the gold, the credits, like the battle pass is just good. And then also like, even though I don't think Ghost Spider is very good, just making sure that it's not going to be rotating through pool 5 and 4. Like it's just, if you're going to buy one thing, the battle pass is probably the best value. And so I know people sometimes say they're going to skip battle passes. I mean, fair enough. I just don't think it's worth it, even when they're not, maybe the battle pass that speaks to you. I
Well,
think you still get a lot of stuff.
all right, so here you go. Free to play, relatively perspective, right? My kid's account, we don't buy stuff, right? Only the battle pass. He decided to buy the battle pass this month, and not the one with the boosted levels, the $10 one.
Yeah.
Today we hit rank 60. So at rank 50 on the battle pass, you've gotten everything, right, up to the point. And after rank 50, you're just opening up collector's boxes with random stuff in them. And so today we hit rank 60. So we got all the stuff, and he's so happy that he did, because not only did he get the cards, like he got a bunch of variants and a bunch of like the card backs and a bunch of other stuff that like, and now that like, okay, Nebula is now like going to be in season or series 5. It's like, oof. That's a bummer. Yeah. What is interesting is that I've seen over the past month a bunch of cards dropping into the variant pool that were previously like the steampunk ones that were like from the Variant Rush event and stuff. And like some of those are like popping up now. And so it's kind of cool to know that you, like if you miss one of these things, that you still have a chance of seeing some of that stuff later. But I think
Are they popping up?
I swear I saw one. I don't take it for gospel, but I swear I've seen a couple of those things pop up that
I know the beta ones are going to be coming back in bundles, but I didn't hear about it. It wouldn't surprise me if the Variant Rush ones did. I'd be surprised if the bundle ones did. Probably they'll
I think with
resell the
enough
bundles.
time, but not anytime soon would be my guess on the bundles. Also, it could be they do have some ones on the theme. of those ones that weren't actually in the variant rush. Like the winter vacation one, there are a bunch of winter vacation skins that weren't actually a part of like
Oh, it could be that. It
the
could
limited time thing. So that could also be it.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Don't take it for gospel. But anyhow, yeah. So also coming next month is the Conquest Mode that everyone's kind of been. Well, yeah, coming tomorrow, right?
Well, no, it's coming with the patch most likely.
Probably,
in a week or
probably
so.
about 10 days or so.
Okay.
I believe
13th, I
the
think,
13th is the. It's either the 13th or the 20th. I imagine it'll be the 13th, but we don't know for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, that's when they're going to be doing the patch probably. We also have an OTA this week as well. They said June.
Oh God, but they didn't say what's in it yet, right?
No.
I'm
They just
crying
said
in
when they
Galactus
announced
over
the
here.
end.
Well, they
I don't
won't
think
OTA Galactus.
No, they're not going to
until they
OTA
change its text.
Galactus. Well, if they change his text, I don't know what they're going to do to Galactus. I'm very kind of up in the air about it. I think they are going to do something impactful, but I'm really not sure what they're going to do to the card. Like it's kind of
Gonna murder my boy.
kind of tricky to say for sure what they're gonna do with him, because I think they also realized they're in the position of like, yeah, a lot of people don't like it and it's being played more than we like, but the reason it's being played so much is because a bunch of people like it.
And
so
they
they
paid
don't want to
6,000 tokens for it.
yeah, like they don't want to scare off all the people. Like I don't think they're going to outright murder Galactus.
No, you can't. As a big bad, like they can't do that.
Yeah, it'd be dumb if that was their course of action.
Part of me
We'll
hopes
see.
they kill it just because it is a big bad, and then all the people who are big bad apologists will be like surprised Pikachu face, you know.
They'll if they kill it, they have to put it back down to like Series 4 or whatever.
I mean, well, that'll make him even more mad.
Oh, I can't
I don't know
count.
what they're gonna do.
I don't know. But anyways, yeah. So in the dev video that came out a few days ago, at the very end of it, like they spent a couple of minutes talking about the Conquest format and the way that the ticket system works and kind of how that goes. And it sounds pretty cool. I mean, it was a lot of information crammed into a very short amount of time. And so it's a little bit difficult
I will try to explain how Conquest Mode works succinctly, and then you can grade me on how I do after. So Conquest Mode is the new game mode that basically takes what we know as battle mode and puts it in an online context where you play other people on the internet. Kind of like ladder, although it's not ladder.
Oh God, we're not going to 10 games, I hope, right?
Well, I mean, perhaps.
Depends on the league. Oh no league has 10, but
Well, if you mean within a round itself.
No, I mean against the same person, right?
Well, you play it like. Have you played battle mode yet?
Yeah, but it's so you're playing against the same person until you hit a certain number of points, right? Yeah.
Right. So whomever takes 10 points of damage first loses, and then you move on to your next game and your next opponent. There are 4 kind of we'll call them
like leagues,
or you can think of them as levels or pairings. So the first one is called the Proving Ground, and there's no entry fee. It's free to play. You can enter it as many times as you like. That was confirmed, which is wonderful, because now this is the default no stakes mode where you can clear quests and farm boosters, and you can play as many times as you like. But if you are trying to win, for every win that you get in the Proving Grounds, you get a silver ticket and 15 medals. We'll get back to medals in a second. Let's focus on tickets. Tickets is what lets you play in the next level of the Conquest format. So it goes to Proving Ground, Silver, Gold, and Infinity. In Silver, it costs a silver ticket to enter, or you can spend gold. 80 gold in the case of the Silver Arena. Now, in order to get a gold ticket out of the Silver Arena, you need to get 2 wins. Now, the thing with the Conquest is that you can't eat a loss. It's not like Arena and Hearthstone where you can go 7-2. You lose, you're out. You have to re-enter with a ticket or go back to Proving Grounds and get another one. Gold increases the stakes. It costs a gold ticket to enter, or 200 gold. And here you need to get 3 wins to get an Infinity ticket. Now, Infinity, you require a Infinity ticket to enter or 500 gold, and you need to get 5 wins. If you get 5 wins in the Infinity Conquest tier, then your portrait that you battled with will get an Infinity border. That's the only confirmed goodie you get for clearing Infinity. They may add more things later, although
And the medals. You get medals for every one of these tiers, except I think the free tier, I don't think you get medals. You just
You
get
do.
the ticket.
You get
you do?
15 medals. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they give you
Fancy.
a drip of medals. Yeah. So to put it in perspective, Proving Grounds gives you 15, Silver gives you 120, Gold gives you 370, Infinity gives you 1,375. Medals will allow you to buy things like credits, gold, boosters, and then if you buy a whole whack of things, you can get things like exclusive variants and other cool things. So,
Oh God, you said exclusive.
yeah, I said exclusive. But the nice thing is that you can grind the conquest mode by playing casually and getting medals. We'll see.
Yeah. The medal thing actually looks. That's the thing I'm most excited about. Do we have a picture of the rewards? Because they did show the rewards.
Yeah, here I from Snap. You can take this from Snap Zone. This table. Let me throw it in chat for y'all.
Because it's pretty neat how they're doing the rewards, I think. Because people were concerned about this, right? Like, what if there's a cool exclusive variant and, like, I'm not the best player in the world? Will I still have a chance at getting that? And what it looks like from what we're initially seeing is, like, the answer could be yes. You don't necessarily need to be uh, the most gifted Snap player in the world to still actually get cool stuff out of this, which I think is actually a really good thing.
Yeah,
I
like that too.
Because there's always going to be like FOMO and whatnot.
Well, especially like some of these characters that are like, I don't know, like we're doing Spider-Man right now this month, and like people like I like Spider-Man, but people like love Spider-Man, and dropping like a Spider-Man related character, right? Like they're gonna plop in this Red Goblin variant. People are gonna lose their minds if they're not able to get some of this stuff. Like,
yeah, and we know that these medals are going to be a monthly currency. So the medals are going to reset every month, as are the things in the shop. And
interesting. So you can't like stockpile them. You got to spend them.
No, you got to spend them. But I think that's good. And looking at the prices here, the prices on a lot of these things are relatively low, which makes me figure that most of these, I think, except for the ticket, I think are going to be one-time purchases. Like, there's no way they'd put a mystery variant at 100 if you could buy that a bunch of times, right?
Oh, you can get gold with these like medals. That's rad because
so it's like they have 9 different things. We see 6 of them here. Mystery variant, silver ticket, 150 credits. There's a title, there's boosters, and then there's gold. So this just seems good. You know, people have wanted a way to earn some more progression in the game, and now you can do that just by playing the game, and you can work towards it. And see how it says 0 out of 9 purchases. I guess you have to get all 9 things in the store with your medals, and then it unlocks the variant for you. So I think a lot of people were worried you'd have to clear like the final tier to get the cool cosmetic, and that is not the case. You do still get something if you do that, the infinite avatar, which is cool, but I think most people are going to want like the stuff in the store and the cosmetic for, like, in this case, Green Goblin, a lot more than they're going to want the variant thing. And you can just earn this just by playing. You don't have to play the toughest of the tough at the end of the month, because I don't know if Blue already mentioned this, but the final tier, the infinite tier, is it's only going on during the last week of the month, and that's how I guess they deal with like queue issues where you need people to queue into. So you can do all the other tiers whenever during the month, and you can amass those tickets, and then when you get infinite tickets, you save those for the final week of the season, and that's when everyone can do the infinite challenge and go for the avatar stuff. But
I
so
kind of
far,
like that. Yeah,
it just seems like they found a nice balance of, they found a way to incentivize people to do this without having to do an insane amount of grinding or having to perform really, really well, or, having to buy in every time. A lot of people were worried about that, and that looks like it's not going to be the case. If you want to skip some grinding to the higher tier, if you want to go for the higher tier, the option's there, but you don't really get any inherent benefit from doing that. You're just saving some time. And you're actually getting like less, right? Because by buying in, you're not getting medals from, winning the previous leagues. So I don't know. I really like this system. I'm excited for battle mode to finally have a place in client where people can just play it, and it kind of gives us a pseudo casual mode too.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, probably at least on the surface, the best looking update I think the game has gotten yet, and I'm really hoping there's no hidden element of the compliment sandwich in here, because it all looks really good so far, and I'm very excited for it.
Don't put any onions in
I
my
think
compliment sandwich.
So a lot of people asked the questions that people were concerned about, like were entries to Proving Grounds time gated, which a lot of free-to-play games do. No. I think that the only criticism, and I don't even care personally, I know some people will, is that the gold cost to enter the upper tiers does not require a ticket. So if you're like Whale McWhaleton, the last week of the month, you can just keep spamming for 500 gold to try over and over and over again. And some people will do that. So there is a pay to win element in here.
You still have to win the matches to get the thing, though,
play,
right?
Yeah, like you're giving yourself better odds. It's kind of like the Hearthstone Tavern Brawl,
You're jumping.
Right?
Well,
you're
it's
skipping
like
levels.
The Hearthstone Tavern Brawl that lets you start off like at 7 wins instead of 0, right? So I mean, it's all a matter of perspective. I think that the fact that they've made it, the fact that the bottom end of like Proving Ground and silver and gold to a certain extent are so accessible. They've done the one thing that I've really wanted to see a card game online do, and that is a way to engage with the game competitively that does not require grinding ladder. That is so amazing. One of the reasons why I like Magic the Gathering Arena is because you don't have to play ladder to be competitive. People draft exclusively or do the constructed events, which is like, constructed arena for those who've played Hearthstone. It's competitive. There are high rewards on the line if you do well with them, but you don't have to be a ladder grinder to get those things out of it. So you could have a fulfilling experience playing Snap exclusively in battle mode and not even touch ladder. I think most people will to get the goodies, especially the rank 90 bag. If you can snag it, but it's just a great way to play the game that will still feel meaningful without it being, a freaking ladder grind, which I can't handle anymore. I just don't like it.
I think every time I hit infinite, my mental health takes a dip for a few days, because it's exhausting and grueling. And I mean, at least we start back at 70, but then you make 0 progress for a week, and then have to claw your way in and feel like just miserable.
You think it's exhausting now? I don't want to diminish your accomplishment or anyone's accomplishment. Hitting infinite even right now is freaking hard, but they've made it almost 60% less games you have to play. So
it's just true.
It was even worse.
Oh my god! Well, you hit it before I did for sure. It's been the last 3 months now. I've hit it in a row, and it's but every single time it's just such a it is a grind, and it
feels bad.
Yeah, that's why it's nice that this mode is gonna give people a bit more of a casual option, because right now it's so ironic that people the casual game starts post infinite. But most players aren't gonna get to infinite because it's a really steep grind, and you have to be fairly decent to get there. So it's you need something where people can just go and mess around with lower stakes. And this seems like the great thing for that, with a free entry fee, because you can get your quests done. You don't have to worry about tanking your rank. I think this is going to result in more people playing the game more often than they were before. Because how many times, when the season resets, are you in a position of I'd like to do this quest or whatever, but I'm like, one off of a rank, and
Oh
this
my
quest
God.
doesn't really line up with the deck I'm trying to play.
When we
and-
were sitting at rank 95 and the quest came in that you had to discard 10 cards or whatever, and we're like, oh my God, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not playing discard on ladder at rank 95. Like, nope, not happening. And like,
Hey man, discard's a fine I hear no discard slander here.
it's
No rocket butt insults.
no, but I'm just happy that this gives you an alternative to doing those. Like, I love doing, like, your daily quests don't stack, right? So if you hit 6, like I was telling my kid, like, hey, you got to clear those because you won't get new ones, and you got to clear
that
them.
happened to me today. I was too over my stack, and I noticed as it was like 10:59. I was like,
whoopsies.
Oh, well.
I lost 2 this weekend also. So yeah, it's rough.
I have a question about this thing before we move on, because I watched the video, this battle or whatever you call it, the battle mode, conquest mode. So in the video, like he went through it all very quickly, right? And I think we haven't seen it actually, so it's hard to tell. But he said that you get an infinite border for the avatar that you won with. Is that right? So like, whatever avatar I'm using right now, like I'll get an infinite border and it'll keep it. And then next time, like, I guess you want to be using a different avatar so that one gets the border. So I guess that's the incentive to like do it with different ones. Are they trying to make avatars like suck less?
Yeah, they're trying to make you feel accomplished in your avatar.
I mean, now that I have
those avatars are gonna be super scarce. People are like, can you do this more than once a season? I guarantee you getting 5 battle mode wins in a row against other good players is gonna be very hard. I mean, it's gonna be really tough. You're gonna see people. I bet you they're gonna have to make it easier to. I bet you they change it because not enough people are gonna get it, and people are gonna be mad.
Yeah, 5 in a row is a lot, because the thing about it is it's not that you're winning 5 games in a row. You're winning 5 battle mode games
5
in a
sets.
row, and every battle mode game. So I only played battle mode initially after it dropped a little bit. And every one of those sets, unless it was a total blowout, which is pretty rare, those were like 15 to 20 minutes, which is like, because the snap games themselves are shorter, but like you play quite a few games, especially if you're not, if you or the opponent isn't snapping as much, or if you're aggressively retreating. It's a lot of games. So like one of those, going for a 5-win run. Also worth noting, you're not locked into a deck. They confirmed there's no like deck lock-in, so you don't have to play the same deck for all your runs. You're allowed to switch decks.
Well, that's kind of cool.
So that's kind of neat. I'm curious if people are going to do that. I imagine streamers are going to do that to try and combat
stream sniping or whatever.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with that. Stream sniping hasn't been a huge problem in Snap for the most part. It's been fairly rare, but it does happen. So I'm curious. There are going to be some people who really want the event reward and are going to be willing to go to some dubious measures to try and accomplish that. But we'll see what happens. But it's definitely the thing I'm most excited for in the game, and I probably this is the thing I've been waiting for a while, because right now there's just like playing the game is fun, but there is no real stakes or purpose post Infinite right now. And it's nice that this will give something else to do that's a different form of content, and particularly one that is really fun, but the community hasn't been as engaged with, because tournaments haven't been like an in-client thing, right? They're all external. So it just makes it kind of tricky, where like your more casual player can't easily get involved or might not have the time, whereas this seems much more appealing for a casual type player. Like anybody can do this, and I think that's going to be really great. I think they structured it in a really great way, and it's going to give people more, between this and the fact that they're doing like weekend missions too, and the card mission thing. Like I think they're doing a good job giving people more stuff to do in Snap, because I think that's been one of the the bigger complaints for a while is that once you finish your dailies or your weeklies, aside from getting boosters, there's not much else to do in the game. And so this seems like a good way to give people more stuff to do and explore the game in other ways.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Definitely.
Yeah. Can't wait. And it's soon. It's like it's gonna be in like hopefully it's either the 13th or the 20th. I imagine the 13th. However, looking at past months, it's always been the third Tuesday. So it might be the third Tuesday, which would make it the 20th, but I'm guessing the 13th. But I don't have any particularly special information on that one way or the other.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah, either way we won't have to wait that long. So I'm definitely excited about it, and I can't wait to do some content on it because battle mode's really cool, and now getting people more interested in the community in it seems really good.
Yeah, me too. Well, also give me something to grind away for too. That like just having something low stakes and that you can do to get these like exclusive variants without having to pay money. Like
than Infinite too. Like it's not as stressful of a grind as Infinite, and you still get cool stuff. I'd say what you get out of this is arguably more interesting than the card back you get for Infinite. So I think I think the game really needed something for players to strive for outside of Infinite. And I think this really kind of checks all the boxes there of giving players that experience.
Yeah. All right. Well, we do have some bundles also coming up this month. So unless anyone has other stuff about this Conquest mode, I'll swap the images out here.
Yeah, obviously with every month comes tons of bundles. Some are cool, some are good value, some are not. So I thought maybe we might just give a quick glance through, see if there's any particular bundles that we think are ones to keep our eyes on, or things that we might be purchasing. Because if
there are a lot of them.
The Fiona Heisch ones, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but her artwork is amazing. If you haven't seen it yet, it's almost kind of like a watercolory style, and there's art for Death and Venom and a couple other characters, and it's incredible. So
her style is really great. I'm looking forward to it. But overall, like personally, this season's a little bit lighter on the bundles that interest me. But I'm also very okay with this because I've spent a lot of money in the last few months, so I'm okay spending less money this month. For the big thing I noticed about this month for bundles is, and the chart displays it very well here. The real money bundles are where the value is, and they're not trying to hide that very much. Like the non-real money bundles this month kind of suck. They're really not that great. They're very focused on the cosmetic, and you're not buying them for progress. You're buying them purely for the cosmetic. Now, if the cosmetic really interests you, great. It's going to have different value to different people, but we can see a pretty clear discrepancy here for not all, but most of the bundles. The real money ones have way more value, both in terms of like actual content and progression value. So I think they're trying to get more people to make the plunge and buy something that you can't just get with saving up your in-game gold that you earn. We see that. So they have the Hard 8 bundle, which I think is Doc, Ock, and Black Cat, and that also gets you some credits, some tokens, some gold. Basically, if you're going to buy gold, or if you're planning on buying gold anytime soon, you should not buy gold and instead buy these bundles because they have gold and they have other stuff, and it's much more efficient, is like the TLDR for the Hard 8, the Bring the Pain, which I think is Scorpion and Hobgoblin. And that one has 4,000 gold for $30 when we think about 8,000 gold is normally $100, and you're getting 2 variants. It's probably one of the better deals they've ever offered, I'm pretty sure. 2 variants, 2 avatars, 4K gold for $30 is pretty good. So I'm keeping an eye on those ones because they have cool variants, and they're generally much better value than the normal prices. There are some okay ones here though for gold. The Sandman one has fairly decent value. Festival of Light, which one is that? I don't actually. Let me see. See, Festival looks like a $5 bundle.
It's one with the arrow variant.
Oh, they changed the name of it.
I think,
The
yeah.
data mine, it literally said Arrow is still good.
Oh, how funny.
I
Yeah.
Oh,
don't
they're
know.
not calling it that anymore. That's
I
so
guess
funny.
not. That's really funny though.
Yeah.
That was probably like an internal, like temporary name, I bet, but it's
Yeah.
pretty funny. It was funny to see that. So that's gonna be the Arrow bundle, and that one, if you want just a budget thing, $5 for a variant, 500 credits, 500 gold.
It's a
some
nice
other
variant.
things. Yeah, it's Arrow and nice variants. Name a more iconic duo.
Right.
And then the Fiona one, like Nate mentioned, I'm really excited for that. It's Carnage and Venom and her art style. $20, you get those. You get 2K gold. Another pretty solid one if you like the variants. We do have some gold ones here that aren't awful. One of them, trying to see where it is. Mecha Connors kind of interests me, although the total value one for that one is kind of low. But maybe if you buy the other ones and get the gold that way, it becomes a little bit less better. But a lot of cool variants, a lot of bundles. The short of it is generally, unless you're free to play, if you're considering a bundle this month, you probably want to look at the real money bundles because they are just generally way, way better value than most of the other ones. And they're still trying to do the booster packs, and I really do wonder how many people buy those because they're so ridiculously bad value.
Random boosters
Okay.
seems so bad to me. Like,
Yeah, and we've even given feedback about that, and obviously they'd have to find a way to implement it. But a lot of myself and other content creators have said, "Hey, if you want to try and sell boosters, it's not the craziest idea in the world, but we're not buying random boosters. Like, we need boosters for the specific card you want to split." It amazes me that they haven't tapped into that more because for your turbo whales, for your people with a full collection or close to a full collection, there's so much money for them to be making off of splits that I think is untapped. Where, oh man, I could just keep gambling on splitting my Thanos until I get a really good one. And it's not like you're selling power, right? Like it's just cosmetic upgrades to the card. So
oh
I'm
man.
surprised they haven't tapped into that more because like I know I'm the type of person that if I go for a split on a card and I miss, if I had the boosters, I would have that temptation to be like, all right,
Keep
let's go
going.
again. And I feel like there's a lot of money to be made there that is kind of untapped. Maybe it's a little predatory. I don't know. But
I just can't wait until they let you enable like going into, the card that you have, as long as you've got, you've unlocked it between the borders and the crackle effects and the
like
backgrounds.
customizing
Yeah,
would be
because
really,
like,
really nice.
all right, cool. I got the Kim Jacinto Knoll that I was wanting forever, and I finally got it. And like, all right, cool. I split it, and I like the sparkle effect that it has is like, it's like a blue one, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but it doesn't really match the card. Like, I wish it was red or something like that, right? And it'd be cool if you could like swap those out, or having, the different borders like match each other, whether it's infinite or red or orange or pink or whatever color, right? As long as you've unlocked it.
I've been doing that for high Evo, where my high Evo deck, I'm trying to get it all orange border, but it's tricky because like
I would split my decks if I could do that. I just don't like having them not match. But like, dude, I like the gold backgrounds. And I know you got to split it a number of times before you get them. I'm honestly not a big fan of the black and white ones. I know people love the inked versions, and I don't really because I can't see them very well. But the gold, like, dude, I really enjoy them, but I don't want to split it and get it like now, unless I could choose the border color, then I would totally do it. But anyways,
No,
yeah,
I think they'll definitely do something like that and whatnot. And I think, it's just, there's a lot of potential. I love the splits. I mean, the splits are, I think, one thing that you find really cool no matter where you are in the game. And especially when you get like, that, I think everyone remembers that first like inked or that first gold split they get. It's really cool, especially like been playing the game for a long time. Been playing the game on and off over a year now, including like the beta. And it's cool to see like now I went from being the person who'd see all these other beta players with their fancy shiny versions of cards, and it's like, oh, I'm now that person. Like I remember like eagerly looking up like, oh, how do you get an inked card and how rare are they and what do you have to do, and it's I think it's a really exciting part of the game, and definitely why a lot of players view it as much of a collectible game as they do a playing card game, because building your collection, that's very clearly a core part of their design philosophy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And for all the bad stuff with it, I think most people would agree that the cosmetic side of it is really cool, and it even gives you like neat stuff if you're not a person who's into cosmetics. I think it can be kind of appealing. So that's pretty neat.
Something for everybody for sure. All right. Well, let's look at the data. Blue, you hinted about this earlier, but looking at the meta, pre-infinite and post-infinite, believe this is using data from Untapped.
It is, and I took the screenshots on Friday, and even since then, things have changed a little bit. And really, what's changed is that it kind of trended in the direction that I was predicting. So you can show the snapshot of data. I'm gonna look at the current data to speak to where we are right now on Sunday night as we go into reset tomorrow. But basically, while play rates differ greatly between infinite and non-infinite, the best decks since the high Evo patch are really starting to come into focus. And I thought that we would do a little check-in on the relative win rates, and then look at what we think are some of the best performing lists that we see. Of course, lists are constantly being refined, so we'll have some potential substitutions or recommendations for substitutions as data sometimes can lag behind the refinement. So the first up is the pre-infinite meta. So pre-infinite meta being ranks 70 to 90. 70 is generally when things start to get sweaty. Although really in a 5-week month, perhaps it would have been better to look at 80 to 90 instead, since most people probably got into the 80s. But, be that as it may, we'll leave it right there for now. So kind of just switching my slider here to 70 to 99. All right, so the only difference now between what we had is the top two decks are still the same. Sera Control and what they call Control. Control is basically the lane lockdown high evolutionary decks. That's the high evolutionary deck that runs cards like Spider-Man and Storm. That is the best high Evo deck. Asterisks on that. It's performing quite well. Untapped doesn't sort by win rate, they sort by average cube rate. And you can see on the screen that the win rate for the Control high evolutionary deck is considerably higher than Sera Control, and has a considerably higher play rate because, bluntly, it's easier to play, but also because Sera Control gets hard countered by Wave and to a lesser extent Standman, whereas the lane lockdown high Evo Control deck does not. So they're two excellent decks to play. They're among the better performers. Sera Control starts to do a lot better at Infinite, but it's still amongst the top 5. Then kind of going down the list, we have Lockjaw. So this is also a high evolutionary deck, and one that's really on the rise, that's seeing a lot of rapid refinement and tournament play. This is basically Jane Jaw with a high evolutionary package of Hulk and Wasp, and with some of the refinements that we've seen, the deck is performing really, really well. Interestingly enough, it's really bad into Galactus, and I think this deck is going to be really popular at reset. And so if you're a Galactus enjoyer, this might be your last hurrah. So, just putting it out there. I played a lot of this deck. It is very good. It is much better than Thanos Lockjaw, sadly. Good deck, followed by Bounce. Bounce has seen a drop in play rate, but it still has a very high win rate. More noticeably post Infinite. I look at Bounce and Sera Control as kind of being two sides of a coin, right? So Sera Control plays the Kitty Pryde and Hit Monkey in more of a reactive style, whereby you want to try and throw priority and then swing it back last turn with like a Shang-Chi, an Enchantress, and a big Hit Monkey. Bounce just says, I'm not going to react to anything you're going to do. I'm just going to stat bomb the board. And Bounce, probably left unchecked, is probably, even with all the high Evo stuff, able to put some absurd numbers down. Again, deck is held back due to things that are keeping spam in check, notably Wave and lane lockdown. It doesn't like those two things, but it is certainly a powerhouse if you like asking the questions. And then finally, our favorite, actually not finally, second to last, our penultimate deck, Galactus. Still seeing a 14% play rate pre-infinite. Still driving people absolutely crazy on Twitter. I don't know what to say about this that hasn't been said already. You can play a ramp style, which is kind of the de facto, where you try to play Galactus on 4, and then Spider-Man on 5, and then win on 6. Or you try to Galactus on 5, and then try to just throw
stat
priority.
bomb, yeah,
stat bomb with null and death. There's also the Nimrod version, which is not as rampy, and I don't know. I think that's less popular because it's a little bit more nuanced, a little bit trickier, but also a little less telegraphed. So something to think about. And then the last deck is Stature. Stature Blackbolt. It was nerfed. It's still good. Still has a good win rate. Very low play rate. It just gets there. And again, it like the spam decks, it doesn't like Wave, whereby it used to love Wave because it could play Stature around it. It can't anymore. So those are the decks that are really kind of topping the untapped charts. I think that they're also, if you look at like other content creators that make tier lists that people generally trust, like KM Best and others, I think that you'll see, if not all those 6 decks included, then at least 4 or 5 of them. I think those are the decks that are kind of defining the meta. And really, on a closing thought, the meta is really divided into kind of 2 camps. Well, 3 camps. You've got spam decks that run Kitty Pryde or Stature Blackbolt. They really don't like getting waved. And then you got decks that look to be a little bit more reactive and controlling, lane lockdown, or stat bombing without spamming cards in the case of Lockjaw High Evo. On the other side, that don't really care about wave as much. And then right down the middle, you got Galactus that all the decks hate. So that's kind of the meta trifecta. Really, the only difference post Infinite is that the play rates are a little bit more flat. Of those 6 decks, 5 of them are listed in tier 1. I guarantee you that Jane Jaw is also going to see way more play, and win rates will tick up once people stop playing the bad lists. I think that we're going to review the decks kind of piecemeal, talk about some substitutions. But I think like if you're looking to like climb tomorrow night, I would suggest playing one of those 6 decks. If I had to personally choose, I probably would choose Sera Control or Control High Evo lane. Actually, I wouldn't play that. I'd probably play Lockjaw. I'm kidding. I'd play Lockjaw, Jane Jaw, Dumb Jaw, whatever you want to call it, and or Sera Control. I think it's a preference thing. I think that the best deck to play is probably the High Evo Control lane control deck, which has the highest win rate and highest cube rate, as it turns out, as it stands right now. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to take a sip of water there. It was a lot of talking.
Yeah, no, it's good. Cool. Well, we do have the decks that I can pull up here.
Yeah, I think that we can talk through the ones that perhaps we feel the most comfortable with, and kind of talk a little bit about some refinements that may not have gotten to Untapped. I tried to pick the decks that had the most play and highest win. So these are the ones that you'll typically see on ladder. It doesn't mean that these are the optimal builds, but I think that we can nudge you in the direction of the optimal build. So I'll let Nate or Zombies, one of you, talk to this one. I've played against this deck a lot. I have not played a lot of it. This is what I think is the best deck in the game, the control high evo lane lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to it a little bit. I've experimented with it, and I kind of like the other lane lock builds better. I kind of made my own homebrew version of this. It's very similar, but yeah, I mean, essentially, you've got some lane closure options with Storm and Spider-Man. There, once a lane is closed, like, I mean, ideally you drop a card like Nebula or something into the closed off lane so it can just sit over there and grow, and now you've got that lane like closed down. You've got Jeff that can bounce into closed lanes. You've got Dr. Doom that can plop cards into closed lanes. And then with the high Evo package, just a few cards, but Wasp will zap their things for a couple of points. Misty Knight with unspent energy will boost your things. Cyclops in here also to reduce their things, and then the big giant stat bomb at the end of the Hulk that just grows and grows and grows every turn you've got unspent energy. And so dropping a 20 power Hulk on turn 6 is not uncommon. I think this differs from some of the other like lane control decks because there's not like you're not running Daredevil or Professor X. There's I don't know, you're not running Juggernaut to like push them out of a lane like a storm lane, but
you lean on your early game more with this deck basically, and it's why you're starting to see some versions switch to armor in like the Cage or the Jeff spot. Probably
Yeah,
the Cage
don't
spot.
play Luke Cage, guys.
no,
it's
like this
getting
loses.
dropped
It was
from
for all the
lists.
mirrors, and
Yeah.
now that there are less. I mean, it's still a popular deck, but High Evo is not as popular as it was on release. Shocker.
It's still seeing over
It's still really
30%
popular, but
play.
it's not like it's not every game or every other game you're getting a High Evo deck anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
This
It's
loses
so-
hard to Killmonger, so yeah, I could see adding like
Yeah, because the
Armor.
1-drops are really good in this deck, and the whole thing is Misty Knight might look underwhelming, but it's just like you get such a ridiculous critical
It's
mass.
scales. Yeah, all
That's the
your
whole
one-drop
thing.
scale. They're
You're floating one
scary.
energy, and think about how much you're getting here. And this happens like all the time with this deck. It's you pump Sunspot for 1, Misty pumps another thing, so that's 2 energy. Cyclops, if he's out, he minuses 2 things, so that's 4 power for 1 energy. And then it's also pumping your Hulk, which is an additional 2 power. So that's if you have those 3 cards down and you're going to be playing the Hulk, that's 6 power for 1 energy, which is absurd. So like I've been doing Iron Lad in this deck over Wasp because a lot of people were running Luke Cage, and Lad having the high roll for getting Doom or Hulk or Jeff or sometimes even a clutch Spider-Man has been really, really good.
Yeah.
And armor definitely worth considering because Killmonger really good versus this deck, really good versus Kitty Pryde if you can manage priority right. So I think Killmonger is still being kind of slept on, and
I think
this is one of
that
the
with
reasons
the
why.
Lockjaw deck refinement and that surging in popularity, I think Killmonger is starting to see a little bit more play on ladder. But you were right. Up until that refinement, it was people were not respecting
nobody
it. It
was running
free.
it except
It was
Sera.
free. Yep. Yeah.
So it's a good deck. I like it. If you like lane lock stuff, you can play this. It's good. I still play the old version with Thanos fairly regularly, and it's fine. I think this version's probably better, but not by such a crazy margin that you like can't play the other version. They both have like pros and cons. Like the Thanos version can go a little bit wider than this deck can, and you have more flexibility with the stones. But this one is it's very consistent. It's good at what it does, and lane lock, it's finally showing, like people have finally realized lane lock's a good archetype. It was good before High Evo, but I guess it took High Evo for a lot more people to start experimenting with it. And
well, I think this is interesting because you can close off a lane with underwhelming stats, but know that they grow. Similar to like
or have like Doom for the backup. But yeah, the growing's a big thing. Like the most common play line you see with this is like Storm into a Cyclops or whatever, and that Cyclops does like a lot of work. Even if he only hits twice, he ends up being a 3/8. That's pretty nuts. It's very powerful, but that also shows like you end up leaning on that pretty heavily. So that's why Luke Cage has been kind of decent in the deck in the mirror matches because they rely on their Cyclops, and then all of a sudden, no, the Cyclops isn't doing anything. Suddenly, they're getting a lot less value, and especially if it's in a Storm lane, it matters a lot. But it's a good deck. It's a fun deck. Hulk is basically closing out a lane a lot of the times, and the fact that we can go tall or wide makes it a little tricky to always play around this deck correctly, because sometimes your opponent will decide to try and set up a Shang-Chi for the Hulk, especially if there's only one lane left, or it's obvious where you're going to play, and then you can just get him with a Doom. So definitely benefits from that. And I think X is still good in lane lock, just not this version of lane lock. You don't want to pay 5-on-5 with a Hulk deck. It feels bad. See some people do it. I don't like it. I tried it. I think if you want X, you put X in a different version of lane lock. Like, I still like X in the Thanos version a lot because you can ramp them out and whatnot and take people by surprise. But here, I really did not like X just because we're all in on the floating plan, and when we're not doing that, the deck feels worse.
Yeah. This one, it definitely is built differently, and so you're really kind of all in on floating mana. That's why your Sunspot is there, and
that's why we have all the Misty Knight, the Cyclops, we have it all because we just want to float one mana just about almost every turn we can, with the rare exception being like Storm on 3, Hulk on 6, or Doom on 6. But most every other turn we're gonna float if we can, because the benefits, it gives you so much for very little.
Yeah.
This particular list is still like by and large the most played, and it's still sitting like right at 60%. So that's kind of nuts. Again, I hate Luke Cage, but I mean, whatever. You can take Luke Cage out for armor. It's kind of your flex slot. I think the 3 scaling 1-drops is really kind of what makes the deck terrifying. And I think the other thing that we didn't say is that it's not running wave, but it's still very powerful against the spam decks, because spam decks hate having lanes closed. This deck is good against Galactus because Galactus decks hate having their lanes closed. It's not as like sure shot as some of the other counters, but like it's a very consistent way of checking those decks without weakening your own game plan. It doesn't suffer from what I like to call Eater of Secrets syndrome. For those who play Hearthstone, you might recognize that. All right, let's go on to the other deck. I think there's really not much to say about this one. It's Bounce, and it's just the bog standard build of Bounce that's just putting up numbers. Basically, this is like the aggro deck of the Snap decks, insofar as that you're spamming out cards, and you're basically saying, like, what you gonna do? The only notable difference now is the removal of Darkhawk and the inclusion of the Collector. You'll also notice that Korg is gone as well. Some people run Chavez, some don't. I think that Chavez has proven to be the better way of doing this for consistency, although it really feels bad when you going into turn 6 and you need that one card and you don't get it. But it's going to make your other 5 turns better, I promise. I think you need to do a little bit of lane management with this, but I think this is a relatively easy deck to play, and it's actually a pretty budget-friendly deck to play as well. Although Hitmonkey is kind of essential, so if you skip that battle pass, then maybe it's not as budget as all that. But aside from that, it's basically a bunch of now Series 3 staples and Kitty Pryde that everyone got for free. So I haven't been playing this much, but I do see it quite a bit, and if you don't have the answer, it'll just steamroll you.
Yeah, Kitty, I mean, basically what happened is what we kind of said was going to happen, which is they're like 3 main pillars of the format. It's Kitty Pryde, it's Wave, and it's High Evo. And those are, not every deck are those decks, but every deck is planning for one or more of those decks if it is not already using those cards. So that's why I think the lane lock was nice, because it can outpower the bounce deck sometimes while also not being bad into Wave. So the fact that it can deal with one while also not being hindered by the other makes it really big. And yeah, bounce is just a really formidable like deck right now. It's very, very strong, and I don't know when, but it would not surprise me if in the not too distant future we see Kitty on the nerfing block, because I think Kitty uh, is just doing pretty crazy things right now, more than they might want in both bounce and the Sera deck. I don't think if they do change Kitty, I don't think they're going to make her bad. I think she'll still be a good card, but the power output Kitty has right now is a little ridiculous. Like it's outpowering. I think it can about outstat almost any deck in the game.
I've had Kitty Prides go toe to toe with like Hulks.
Oh
Yeah,
my
like
gosh.
I've
That's
been on the other
crazy.
end of that, and it's like you slam your big Hulk, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden they play Kitty and Hitmonkey and whatever else, and they have like a 27 power lane or something out of nowhere, and so
If they
it's a lot.
Yeah, if they end up changing Kitty Pride to like make her grow more slowly, but give her like a bigger baseline stat, it also wouldn't feel as bad to draw her on turn 3. So I think that there's like a little bit of like tooling
Yeah,
there.
because that's the other thing I think they might not like about this card is that the power of it is so different depending on when you get it. Like it has such a huge power spike when you have Kitty on 1 versus drawing Kitty on 3, let's say. And I think that's something they're not necessarily going to like for the health of the game. So I remember a while ago, Ridiculous Hat mentioned this on Discord, and like I think his comments about it have aged pretty well, and we've seen kind of what happened with it. And his suggestion, if I recall correctly, was make it so Kitty has smaller scaling, but you bake some of the scaling in. So I believe it was make her a 1/2, but she only pluses 1 every time she goes up. So you have a little bit of initial power baked in, but she doesn't grow quite as big, quite as fast, which I think might be a fine way to deal with it. I don't really know. We'll
Make her a
see.
1/3. Make her a 1/3.
1/3, sure. I mean, I don't think they're gonna make her a
Yeah.
1/3, but who knows? Who knows if they even change the card? But I would not be surprised if she ends up being, because the thing with Kitty is, and this is why Wave is such a good counter, is even if you're a Killmonger deck, it is often very, very hard to throw priority versus the bounce deck unless you literally don't play anything.
That's
Like,
why Killmonger is so good in Jane Jaw, because you don't play
you don't do
anything until
anything on the
turn
first
3.
turns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you can actually get. That's why I think, yeah, you just pick either Killmonger or Wave depending on your preference for that deck, because you need. I think it needs another way to help deal with the bounce deck for it to be just more well-rounded. Because I think it does great
Yeah.
against like everything else. So it's really just the bounce deck. So having that extra card, either Killmonger or Wave helps a lot versus this. But the thing is, like, a good bounce player can just kind of go off on turn 5 if they're expecting the wave, and it can still be pretty hard to fight through. We've seen some interesting tech choices like Invisible Woman, so you can hide your Kitty behind the Invisible Woman, so that way if they play wave, she doesn't go back to your hand. So that's kind of a neat development. And then some people have been trying out the Iron Man stuff as well. I haven't played a lot of bounce, so I don't really know how all that's going, but it did take down a pretty big tournament not too long ago. So it just definitely one of the
Tournament metas are a little bit different than ladder, but
true. But the power of the deck I think remains the same. Like both in tournaments and ladder, bounce is like a really good choice right now.
yeah.
I'm sure it takes a while to get used to playing it because it's a different play style for sure.
Not that hard.
And
Play.
I
You
think
spam your
the-
cards.
yeah, it's not the most complicated thing in the world. I do think it's one of those decks where, since you do have more decisions to make, there's more potential for making mistakes. But if you once you've played the deck, a decent amount of times, I think it becomes pretty easy to see like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is kind of the order I want to play things.
All right, well, moving on, we've got the last Meta Terror on here, which is the same 12 Stature Blackbolt cards. This deck isn't seeing a lot of play, but there are people playing it, and they are winning games. And even with Stature and Blackbolt taking a minor adjustment and being a -1, they're still good. So, this is a reactive kind of point slam deck. You've got your Enchantress, you've got your Shang-Chi, you've got your Stature and Black Bolts. This is again not terribly complex deck to play. Although, it can be tricky to manage priority with the reactive decks. It's still good. Still, I honestly don't know what it's beating, but it
I don't
based
know about this deck. It's so weird. Like it does continue to put up the numbers. I took it for a spin. I don't know, like a week after it got nerfed,
uh
and it felt very mediocre to me at the time. But I think doing like this version does and having going back to because remember it switched to a more proactive element with like Lad and Doom and stuff for a while. But now, if you want to be doing like Lad and Doom and stuff, you probably can just play the lockdown deck.
You know
So
what
it
this deck is going to be good against if
with the
Jane Jaw becomes more popular, which I
Yeah, this
believe
would
it
probably be pretty
is.
good against that
Yeah,
because you shuffle rocks into their deck. You have like Shang-Chi, which can just clear out a lane of big stuff. You often throw priority. Maybe you discard a Wasp or a Thor hammer with Bolt on 5. Like I
yeah.
could see this being decent into the. It's funny, like people have complained about Darkhawk for like a while now, but I mean I haven't been playing a ton the last few days because of Diablo 4 and whatnot. But I've been getting my dailies in and. I really don't see much Darkhawk anymore.
No.
Like
Yeah.
it's funny because it's been one of those cards that people are like, oh, Darkhawk's been the meta for so long, but it's like, and I think it's fine. I think the card is fine. It's a decent deck, but like it in terms of popularity,
It,
it has
it'll
definitely fallen from
It's
where it
going to
was.
come back when Boombox Morales gets released.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, variants will have an impact. And I do think, but basically, switching to a more reactive style makes a lot of sense for this deck because I think if it wants to be doing proactive things, you'd rather just play a better proactive deck. But this can do some proactive things, like it's proactive with its stats or messing up the opponent's deck with the rocks, and then has a big swing at the end, which is similar to Sera control, right? Like they rely on their final turn swing to close out the game a lot of the time. So I'm not surprised this deck is still pretty good. I also think it's just a deck that people got bored with really quickly. Even at the height of its power, its play rate was always very low relative to how good it was like putting up numbers.
It was a bit of
Um,
a Z deck, yeah.
yeah, and that's how I kind of felt with it. And I loved the Darkhawk decks and all that kind of stuff, but I found this one got like it feels like you're going through the motions a lot with the play patterns. It feels very similar every game
Yeah.
and that some people really like that and that's how, we still have people playing the deck, but I wasn't particularly drawn to the play pattern after a while. I found it got a little repetitive. But it's cool to see that,
Agreed.
just because a deck got nerfed doesn't mean it's a bad deck, even though everyone runs away from it like it has the plague. It's like, no, the deck is actually still pretty good. It's just nobody plays it, and
And
we've
this
seen this
is
before.
this is the refined list. I mean, if you're gonna play this, these are the 12 you play. Um, there's always adjustments you can make, but I think this is truly the list.
I have
Um,
there's one person, I forget their name, who I play on ladder who has like their own take on this deck, and you can tell it's like their favorite deck because they have all the fancy versions and whatnot. But they
mm,
play it differently. They run like it's not a Dino deck, but they run Quinjet, they run Cable, I think they run Coulson as just like these mid-range cards and whatnot. It's pretty interesting. Like it doesn't feel like a better version of the deck, but I'm always kind of surprised at what they're able to do with it because it doesn't look that threatening, and then
mhm.
all of a sudden Coulson stole your Hulk, or or not
Oof.
Coulson,
Cable.
Cable stole your
Yep.
Hulk, or it's kind of neat to see people experiment with like slightly off kilter brews of it and have success.
Well, the next deck has a lot of variation to it, but I think that the 12 that we have up here are probably where you'd want to start with this list. And that's Sera Control. It generally has a lower win rate because it tends to be a reactive deck. It also, I'm told, I don't find this to be the case, but a lot of people are under the impression that it's a harder deck to pilot. So I mean, I don't. I want to just be clear. People seem to think that easy decks to pilot is like some kind of euphemism. I don't think so. In fact, I tend to like to play easy decks, especially when you have to grind ladder and play them over and over and over again. I don't think Sera Control is that hard. Perhaps others do. I like this build of it. Scarlet Witch is very important because it is one of your reactive tools to deal with the control lane lockdown deck, which is very important. Enchantress to a lesser extent for Professor X, but really you want to be Scarlet Witching the Storm lane.
Oh yeah,
that really
that's
puts a monkey wrench into the plan and is really, really tough. I play this exact 12 with one exception. I run Jeff over Sentinel. I don't actually know if that's better or not. It probably isn't. But it's Jeff, right? So
Jeff is so good. Jeff is often very good in well, I don't know. I find myself trying to cram Jeff into like just about everything I can because it's just so versatile.
Yeah, and also like it kind of, it's nice to have into the lane lockdown decks, and also Sera control, like if you get that Sanctum Santorum or like Cosmo Canyon or the plunder castles that still seem to be in the game, even though they removed 3 of them. They took out the 3 worst. Jeff kind of just helps with that a little bit. But I think this is a really good deck. Really, it's being carried by Kitty Pryde. It's a lot easier now to throw priority and still like keep a base of power. Kitty Pryde, Hit Monkey is just such a huge swing on turns 4 through 6. This is one of my favorites. These decks and the Lockjaw decks are the ones I tend to play. It's funny because a lot like this has a lot in common with the Blackbolt deck. Yet this is fun to play. Funny how just changing a few cards makes a deck more appealing. Of course, everyone has their own interests. But
I was gonna say it's all subjective, right? Different people are gonna find different things that they like, and it's part of the beauty of the game, I guess.
So Jeff for Sentinel maybe. There are lots of variations of this. This just seems to be the one that I think runs the field pretty well. And then finally, our last deck, and I think this is the one that's undergoing a lot of refinement. So don't play these 12. Do make the substitutions that we're going to recommend. This is just Jane Jaw, Lockjaw. Very strong. I can't put my finger on it. I think it has a lot to do with Hulk and Wasp. But the changes that you should make with this deck is you should cut the Infinite and play Magneto. You should cut Dracula, and you should be playing either Wave or Killmonger. I was playing Wave until Lambie convinced me that Killmonger was better. I haven't looked back since. Although Zombies made a good case earlier that in some situations, Wave may be the correct tech card. It really depends on the things that you're seeing. This is a point slam deck, plain and simple. And it's a point slam deck that does so without spamming cards by going super tall in lanes. So it does a lot better into lane lockdown. It does a lot better into, strategies that will try and slow the rate of cards being played or where they're being played. Where this deck struggles is it's truly an aggro deck of sorts in that you're asking questions. You can be hurt by Shang-Chi. You could be hurt by low rolling. You have no game against Galactus. It feels so bad to play this into Galactus. If you get tilted by Galactus, don't play this deck.
Or make some substitutes, right? Like, I feel like all this deck needs to not be absolutely garbage into Galactus is trying to find space for Magneto and or Arrow, and then you probably feel kind of all right?
No, not really,
you don't
because
think so?
not with Magneto, because the problem is that you don't have any real way of ramping out Magneto unless they play Wave.
Yeah, well, Wave's what they're going to be doing like half of the time, right? When they're ramping out.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose so.
I think
Definitely
it'll
want
still
to
be
play
a bad matchup, but like if you're
Yeah.
seeing a lot of Galactus, it might be enough to help actually give you a fighting chance, right?
I didn't find, but maybe just because I didn't have it in hand. But definitely, you want to be running Magneto over Infinite. I think definitely.
I still am an Infinite fan, but the main reason for that, and it's funny because it's not really a card I've liked in a while, but it's just because of the Hulks. Like a lot of the time now, the deck does a lot of powerful things, but like you could get a Chavez and you could get like a Doom or a Chavez and an Odin, and they could still get you with the Hulk in that lane. So that's why I've kind of liked the Infinite, because when he pops out of the Lockjaw,
Yeah,
it's
it
Shang-Chi
feels
or
good.
bust.
Yep,
Like,
yep, yep.
There's no other option. They're not outpowering that lane. Whereas Magneto, it's good. And I think Magneto is good in his own right just for the effect, because there are like a lot of the high Evo decks lean heavily on things like Cyclops, and the Darkhawk decks lean on 4-drops. So like I think Magneto's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a card worth considering for the deck.
Yeah, and if you want to play Dracula, then you definitely want to have
Yeah, I
cards
don't
like
like
the Infinite.
Dracula personally. I think
I don't either.
Dracula, it's a neat idea, like cool in thought, not as cool in execution. There's
You
just
will
too much
like,
small stuff to
yeah,
discard.
you will like Dracula until you discard High Evo or Jubilee into it, and it will feel so bad.
Yeah,
And
I had
that
safety do
you'll be
that to
done.
me, and it was so funny. It was such a iconic moment or whatever. We were playing a game. He was on essentially this deck, and he passed on 5, and he hard cast the Infinite on turn 6, and it was a good play. And he probably would have beat me if his Dracula discarded something
Nope.
decently big at all. But it
Sounds like a
discarded
player skill issue.
the high Evo, and I said it right then. I was like, well, you see, he made a very clear mistake. The Dracula has the unwritten text of if you have an Infinite in hand, discard it. And he played his Infinite. So your Dracula can't do the funny thing if you don't, have the card in your hand. So I think that's where he might have made a mistake. You always got to leave the Infinite in hand with Dracula.
I should have shown
text.
yeah, I should have featured a Galactus deck. I didn't. That was my subconscious hating on Galactus. But honestly,
The
like
masses are getting to you.
I think that in all seriousness, I think Galactus is not a terrible choice to ladder with. And if you like Galactus, I would highly recommend getting your reps in, because I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't personally think they should change it. Yeah, it creates non-games and can be annoying, but I mean, we've talked about this so many times. Whatever. I think that this is your last hurrah. They may not kill the card, but if you're worried that they may, then just play it, because it's good into Lockjaw. It's pretty good into Sera control. Good into Stature. Although Stature has Polaris, you gotta watch out. It's great into bounce, and it's serviceable into the control deck. That's probably the deck you'll struggle with the most.
Here's a version. I can put one up on the screen real quick that I got from Safety Blade. It's a new version of. I mean, it I don't know how good it is, but it's worked okay for me in like goofing around. It runs the high Evo cards. I don't know how good it actually is.
It's a neat idea.
So it's essentially the same, Galactus is going to be the same shell no matter what. You have your Electro and your Wave for your ramp, your Spider-Man to close out lanes, and of course Death and Null to the power bombs. The only high Evo cards that it runs are Wasp, just because you're sometimes like you go weird in this deck of trying to either like throw priority or get it back. And the Hulk, of course, is just another power bomb. And it runs the Shocker, which is kind of weird. It actually felt kind of like a letdown for me, because the Shocker reduces the cost of the leftmost card in your hand. Mm-hmm. And potentially, like, if it hits Galactus, you can play it a turn early. I've played this deck like 100 times, and it's hit Galactus once. Like, it has to be in your not only in your hand, but then in the leftmost space, which just like, what are the chances of that happening?
It's very unlikely.
So Shocker feels kind of bad in this to me. Like, this was an early list when High Evo first came out, so it's probably changed a little bit, and I just still have it sleeved up. But it's okay. It does kind of what the other things do. It's the same kind of shell. The Hulk is, you are spending some turns like throwing mana, or energy, I should say. So if for whatever reason, like, you don't land on your Null or Death, like, you can still drop the Hulk as a power bomb on the last turn. Mm-hmm. But it's the same deck, right? It's not much has changed. I think you could still tweak it a little bit, but Galactus is Galactus. I'm still running the version I hit Infinite with 2 months ago, and it's working just fine. So,
it's like a solidified archetype at this point, right? Like, people would try out new little things with it, but most people know the way they want to go with Galactus at this point, I think.
Dr. Octopus, I think, is very good. I'm not a big fan of the Destroyer, but it's okay. I've tried it and it's been like kind of hit and miss for me. Shang-Chi is always good. Wolverine, I think
The
is
other
bad, but-
version that looks really good runs Iron Lad over Destroyer. It's the
Iron
same.
Lad, I think is very good in the deck.
Oh, and it runs Jeff too. Here's the other. This is the other one that had a high play rate and high win rate. So this might be worth sharing as well.
Yeah, I'll pop it up. Iron Lad has been good in the deck. I'm running it in mine now because it, like, no matter what it hits, it's like kind of good. So here, let me pull this one up on the screen too. Yeah,
This is probably what I'd play if I was to play Galactus because it runs Jeff.
Jeff, I think, is still a must for me. It's just so good. People don't always play around it, but sometimes it helps you. Like,
I want my gold split Jeff with a crackle, so I'm splitting Jeff forever.
I love it.
Yeah, Jeff is great. I got a gold Jeff the other week, and I'm very pleased.
Ooh, nice. Jeff is so fun. I'm still waiting for that Dan Hip version to come out, but one of these days. I do think
Dan Hip Jeff is great.
Yeah, I like I like Iron Lad in the deck a lot because, like, no matter what it hits, it is pretty good. I mean, I guess it can screw you if you play it with. You have to know how the deck operates, right? Because you're not gonna. I don't know. It's also like if you haven't drawn Galactus, you can just YOLO Iron Lad and maybe you get it. It usually doesn't, like. Yep. I have too, fun. And it was kind of hilarious the first couple of times. And
I think it's best in the Nimrod version from what I've found because that deck has more specific cards you want to get. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like gigantic Galactus fan, especially early on, and I've kind of adopted like the lane control as kind of one of my favorite play styles, but I don't really like Nimrod. I really tried to, but it's just the setup is tricky. You do have the benefit of being able to play Galactus on turn 6, but at the same time, like, the longer you wait to drop Galactus, the more and more telegraphed you are, and it's just more opportunities to get disrupted. So yeah. It's hit and miss for me. Nimrod is very interesting also because depending on where you play it and then where Galactus like destroys the lanes in what order the Nimrod bounces, like, it changes the number of Nimrods that you get. So, and like their power levels and stuff, it's just funky. There's a lot of nuance to it, and I haven't taken the time to like fully learn it. Mm-hmm. It's a strong deck though, and yeah, I don't know. I have not seen a ton of people playing it, and I do think of all the cards, like, Spider-Man is probably one of the most toxic cards in this game. I'll never forget, like, because I didn't have Absorbing Man at the time when people were playing the stupid Zabu Spider-Man and Abs Man, and I was like, you just locked down 2 lanes, like, I hate you. And I actually saw somebody over the past month post a list that had Absorbing Man in it, and I was like, what in the world is this? And then they explained, they were like, well, it can be another Electro, it can be another Wave, it can be another Spider-Man. I was like, oh, I guess it can actually. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's good, but it is versatile. So anyways, the deck is still strong. I think that, you know, I don't know that it's ever going to go away at this point unless they totally nuke Galactus, which I don't think that they really. I don't know what they can do to it.
The more that if they're going to do something to it, the only thing they can do without killing it is basically the reverse magic, where you can only play it on turn 5 or after. So you can't do the Galactus Spider-Man win thing that everyone hates, right?
You'd have to play it on 5. It would just pull Spider-Man out of the deck. I mean,
well, maybe they do it differently where it can't be played before turn 5 or something, so that way you can still do turn 5 and 6 Galactus, but you can't Spider-Man people anymore. That would probably be my guess as well. I don't. It's hard to say for sure.
The other common suggestion is so bad. If they do that, they may as well just don't do that.
Yeah, that would just totally delete the card.
I think that people will still be really, really angry if they do the turn 5 thing, because the whole big bad. I wanted to say this earlier, but I'm gonna make a prediction for you guys here. Blutrane's hot take of the week. You need a something on the soundboard, Nate, like the Vuvuzela or whatever.
Oh wait, I'll find one. I'm sure I have one. Here we go.
Always lucky.
All right, what's your hot take?
Blutrane's hot take of the week. That was anticlimactic.
Hey, I got that on recording, so next time I'll just play that.
Oh God, no. Misplay. Here's my hot take. So Perma Series 5 has been associated with big bads, and you joke, zombies, that you call them Big Goods or Big Jeff. At some point, they're gonna make a non-big bad Series 5, and they're just gonna basically say, we're just gonna retool this. It doesn't have to be a big bad. We're just taking premium cards and making them permanent Series 5. And here's the hot take. I don't think that anyone here would say, well, that's not really so far-fetched. But I want them to do this. I want them to expand permanent Series 5 beyond big bads, because I want everyone that argued for permanent Series 5 to be based on this big bad thing to just be like, I'd prefer they would abolish Series 5 completely. That's what I really, really want. But if I don't get that, I would settle just for spite. And so everyone that's made this argument that like, oh yeah, it's a big bad, so it's got to be permanent Series 5. When they make like some random card permanent Series 5, they're like, we're moving beyond big bads. We're just going to take premium cards and we're going to call them permanent Series 5 or whatever. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll give the Miss Marvel thumbs up. Yeah.
Toxic.
Well, the whole permanent Series 5 thing is like the real toxic. I just really find it. You joked about it earlier, like the lore argument for it. There's no lore argument for it, and this notion.
Well, no.
That
Otherwise, Spider-Man would be Spider-Man is
Dr.
huge.
Doom,
This notion that it's good for the game because it means that like the play rates will be repressed by this. Really, high Evo is still 40%. I suspect it's worse pre-infinite than post. So if there's anyone who's pre-infinite in chat who can confirm that, I've been seeing less of it post-infinite. But like the point is that it didn't stop people from buying high Evo and playing it. So the permanent Series 5 thing is just, it's so. Anyways, we don't need to go on that rant again. But that's my hot take, that they're gonna find some way to wiggle out of the big bads for doing it. And I'm going to be pleased because everyone that made those bad faith or lore-based arguments, we'll see where they are in the YouTube comments when they do that.
It's only, I hate to say it, no, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time until that happens. It
kind of already has. Isn't High Evo not really a big bad? I don't know.
Well,
like,
it is. They said it was a big bad.
He is.
No, they said, but he's not like.
You're talking about from a lore perspective?
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
not
like
a chance. Not
villain of the Guardians movie.
Yeah, but
they're doing it off of MCU stuff.
But it like
for the most part
in the big. But yeah, except Galactus not even in the MCU. I mean,
yet they have a Fantastic Four thing in the works.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. What's funny is, I mean, High Evo in the comics is like a total. I'll do a lore video on it sometime. I almost chose that one to be first, and it was so underwhelming that I was like it's kind of like, I mean, there's some stuff there, but it's not like they did it because of Guardians of the Galaxy, right? I mean,
for sure.
More than anything else, if they really wanted to do that, like they could take this cosmic approach and be like, oh, the Living Tribunal, and start taking cosmic entities.
Oh yeah, a lot of people thought the Living Tribunal was going to be a big bad for a while, but I think they didn't want to release two so close to each other. No.
Well, Living Tribunal also like a terrible card, but whatever.
It's fun. It's not. Very
good.
I
tried it. I got it randomly generated in my hand, and I was like, oh well, I'll get a chance to try it, I guess, and lost. But that's all right.
You need a very specific deck, and if I've learned anything about Living Tribunal, it's that, like, it's kind of cool to have as like a backup thing every once in a while, but it's not It shouldn't be your main way to win, and the best way to play Living Tribunal is to not have to pay for it. So that's Lockjaw, and that's Hella. I
Yeah.
don't think that card really belongs anywhere else.
I could see them doing like Cosmic Spider-Man as a big good Series 5 if they ever wanted to go down that like Secret Wars type of thing, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't know what else is coming in the MCU. I'm a little bit behind in the movies, to be honest.
Was watching Empty Apartment. He's been playing a lot of Living Tribunal. I have a feeling that you're not going to be seeing Empty Apartment play Living Tribunal when the ladder resets, since he likes to hit Infinite pretty hard. So
I don't think most people are going to be playing Living Tribunal upon reset.
Yeah.
No way. I don't think a lot of people have Living Tribunal. I mean,
no.
Yeah, and most people shouldn't. It's not a card you should buy. It really isn't.
It's going to drop to Series 4 pretty quick.
That's safe to say. I wouldn't be surprised to see that either.
Yeah. And that takes us to the bottom of our notes. A relatively short episode this week, clocking in 2 hours. We did it, guys.
Hooray!
Only 2 hours instead of 3 or 3.5.
Got him.
Got him.
Yep.
So, feeling guilty that we're wrapping up early. Is there any impromptu topics, or do we think we're pretty much done? I have nothing else.
The only thing I really want to know, I guess the two questions that I would ask, and not to prolong the show too much, but like, what are you guys going to be playing on Reset? Briefly, I mean, I know we've just talked about all these decks, but you personally, and then like. Particularly you, Zombies, because I know you're creating content for this and you probably have plans already, but where do you see Ghost Spider fitting in the new meta? Like, because people are going to try the card on day one, right, to try to fit her in somewhere, and like, where do you see her fitting in, if anywhere? And I know I don't know that it's going to be that, number one, that great, or number two, like really that great until all the other Spider-Verse cards kind of come out that it works in tandem with, but I'm kind of curious. So
yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I actually still have to put together the decks for the day one deck video tomorrow, which I'm going to do whenever I wake up tomorrow. But yeah, I think what you said is generally how I feel about it. It's a cool card. Everyone's going to try it because it's a season pass card, and I think everyone's going to very quickly stop trying it until other new cards come out, because on its own it's just not enough to really bring about some
she doesn't really feel like
already exist. I think like you need a bigger critical mass of movement cards to really push it over the edge, and I think she's a core piece of that, but we won't see like the real results of what that can do until Silk and 2099 are out. And I mean, it's possible one or both of those don't even make the cut, but I don't think Move really gets enough with just her. Now, maybe there's some like weird application for it, like maybe this is like a hedge against a lane control deck, so you can like play a big thing into their storm lane, and then if they win the lane you can just pull it out, so you're not like overly committed. But that seems like a weird hedge case, and I think it's going to be tricky to find, because the card doesn't really slot into existing archetypes that I can think of outside of Move. Like, it doesn't do something that makes a lot of the good decks better. And those good decks are usually pretty tight for space, so you're not going to just put in a card because it's new if it doesn't work with the rest of the deck. So we'll see people try around stuff with Move, and then probably get sick of it in a day or two and decide to wait to experiment with that until more of the Move cards are out. But yeah, that's kind of what I think. I'm probably just gonna play one of the lane lock decks, either Thanos or High Evo. I'm gonna experiment with the card, but I still haven't figured out decks with it yet, and I'm not really sure what I want to do with it, to be honest, until we get some more of those like moved cards to kind of give that needed critical mass.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. I've been having a lot of fun with the lane control stuff. I have my own kind of homebrew take on it's like combination between the Thanos kind of build without the Thanos cards and some of the new high Evo stuff, but different than what we were looking at earlier. And I it's not perfect, but it's not too bad either. It's really tricky playing in Infinite where there's no stakes, right? And so it's not like
you don't really know about a lot of stuff until the reset happens and you get to see how it stacks up, because that's where it gets more competitive compared to post Infinite, where everyone's just kind of having fun with whatever. You get competitive decks, but they're not the like, you're not only seeing competitive decks.
Yeah, definitely. No, I've seen more memes, right? Because people just don't care that much, and haven't ranked up very much because I'm just like farming, daily quests and boosters. So
yeah, I feel that. I did like some climbing initially, but I've hovered most of the season around like between 120 and 130 because like I just don't really have an incentive to try and push any higher. I just kind of play the game and have fun with it.
Yeah.
And it's a good place to be. Like I mean, eventually, we need like some kind of ladder system, but I think the Conquest stuff will be a nice alternative that helps fill that kind of role of something to care about after Infinite.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to do both and switch back and forth between the two, in fact. So very much looking forward to it. And at some point, honestly, like there's not a lot of incentive for me to grind post Infinite because like you're not really getting anything. There's no value there. And so being able to grind Conquest is a lot more preferable. I'll hit Infinite and switch over to Conquest. So that's great.
Yeah, it seems, and it's also great because now the people who wanted a casual mode, they can just kind of do that. You don't have to wait for Infinite to be casual. They can just play the game how they want, which is great.
Yep, 100%.
And you get rewards, like you get your boosters, you get your quests. So I'm looking forward to what June has in the works.
Oh, me too. What about you, Blue? What are you going to play on reset? I'm put my money on Lockjaw because I know you're a Lockjaw gamer.
Yeah, I like Lockjaw. I think that the problem is that it's really catching on, and it's really easy to like disrupt, and it's not good against disruptive strategies. So probably Sera Control, or if I can continue this streak going with Thanos Bounce, then maybe that. But if it's one of the 6 that we reviewed, it's probably Sera Control.
Yeah,
Sera's always fun
with that.
Yeah.
Sera's just Sera probably is the best deck in the game right now, in my opinion. It's just
I think the Control Evo deck is better, but I mean, splitting hairs.
Yeah, it all depends, right? And that's a deck that I think has a decent time into Sera because it locking down a lane is really annoying when you're playing Sera, and especially if they get 2. But when they just have the Hulk to lean on, sometimes it can be all right. But yeah, it depends for sure.
Yeah, and I think that with the new game mode, probably be a lot more willing to kind of branch out and try other things because there's no stakes.
Yeah, that's nice. You don't feel like this is great for especially that early season where if you want to play a few games, but you don't really want to stress about like tanking your rank and you're gonna have to get it back. This seems like a very nice thing to have.
It also means I'm going to play a lot more on mobile.
Oh yeah.
Because I tend to like do serious play sessions at the PC and kind of really like hyper focus, and I don't like playing that way, but I feel forced to. Now I can just like queue up a game of the zero stakes battle mode on the iPad or whatever.
Around.
Yeah, I think that's actually, believe it or not, the like, what am I going to play next month? No stakes battle mode, the Conquest mode. That's the biggest thing. But yeah, on ladder, probably Sera Control. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of Lockjaw, a lot of Thanos Lockjaw. There was a tournament today that Lambie and Moyen casted, and
yeah, I saw that, or I heard about it.
And yeah, I watched. I kind of had it in the background. I was doing some work, and there was so much of that deck. And
really, the Thanos Lockjaw?
Yeah, not Thanos Lockjaw. Just
the Haiba Lockjaw.
Yeah, Jane Jaw. Sorry, I kept saying Thanos Lockjaw.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd be surprised.
Yeah, no. The dumb jaw, just Jane Jaw, like the one with Jubilee. And it's good. It's really good, and it got refined, and
I knew it was gonna be good.
There you go.
As
So
soon as they
you're gonna see a lot of that, I suspect, and I think it's gonna go away after a few days because there's gonna be people who just Shang-Chi them right to the moon.
Oh yeah, it's it's a deck that's definitely very vulnerable to Shang-Chi, and there's not really a way to fix that. Like you just kind of accept it, and fortunately, not a crazy amount of decks are running Shang right now. He's still around, but
Not
like
quite as much as he used to be, that's for sure.
yeah,
Oh my
that's what it
gosh.
feels like to me.
When I hit Infinite with Galactus, like there was Shang-Chi everywhere. Everywhere.
Mhm.
And I think it's kind of like I haven't seen him quite as much.
I think the Shuri meta has like forever tainted my like Shang expectations because back then like you were running Shang-Chi or you were running a Shuri deck, or if you were Giga Brained you put the Shang-Chi in the Shuri deck, which got me a few times in spite of it being a very much less than optimal decision for
You
that
you
deck.
don't sound bitter at all.
No, no, of course not. No, I'll never forget those 8 cube losses to
Oh
Shang and
no,
Shuri.
those
Oh
are
my god,
those are
it's just
bad.
that's how you know it's the most like toxic inbred meta ever. Is when the proactive power deck is running the counter card just for the games where they don't get their
And
proactive
and
stuff.
and this is coming from the guy that like put Shang-Chi in bounce. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll put him in everything. I still think he's good in bounce. I have actually nobody plays around it in bounce, and it's hilarious. Because sometimes it's all you need is just like a big Kitty Pride in one lane and a
it's
Shang-Chi
almost
in another lane,
it's
and there you
almost
go.
as 5 head as putting it in a deck that plays a huge red skull on turn 5, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Hashtag unnerve Red Skull.
No, don't unnerf Red. Well, is unnerfing him re-nerfing him because of the +2? I don't even wanna know.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well.
So that's that. So the picks for next month, starting tomorrow, when we meet next, we'll be a little bit into the meta, and we'll be able to see how things have developed from here. Because I think that really, if you're listening to this a few days from now, we recorded this on Sunday, June 4th. This meta has been evolving quickly. There's a lot of viable decks and there's a lot of counterbalance. And so like as one thing kind of tilts that, the cold tapestry kind of unwinds a little bit. Like Kitty Pride and Wave are like the glue, but it's kind of interesting to see how things will develop, especially with the introduction of the new cards.
Yep.
For sure.
All right, so to wrap it up, let's do the socials thing. Mr. Nom Nom, where can people find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me over on YouTube at ZombiesGoNomNom. Same with Twitter, Twitch, zombies with a Z at the end of it. Go Nom Nom. Do pretty regular streaming. Took the last few days off for the Diablo 4 release, and might actually stream some of that tonight. I'm not sure.
Nice.
But that's been occupying my time quite a lot the last few days, but it's been kind of nice because, I mean, there hasn't been a whole ton going on in Snap in the last week, outside of just messing around with like the new card last week a little bit, and it was fun. The new season looks like it'll be fun, but I think it's really going to pick up with Conquest Mode, and that's when I'm excited to try and dive into some new content stuff because I can't wait to see, people are going to have more interest in battle mode, and I think it's going to open up a lot more opportunities for content that previously I don't think there was as much community interest in. We've seen there's a pretty strong grassroots tournament community for Snap. People are pretty involved with it. I wish I was more involved with it, but it's just hard to find time to commit to that kind of stuff. So I'm excited that Conquest is going to kind of bridge the gap a bit and let us do some of that competitive battle mode stuff and bring more interest to it without having to necessarily always be involved with the tournament stuff. Because I think a lot of people are in that position where Snap is just it's a fun phone game they play every now and again. Not going to go out of their way to play like some big multi-hour tournament for it, but hey, if you can just pick it up at your convenience and jam some games in the battle mode and get some cool stuff from it. It's an exciting time for the game, and I'm looking forward to it in like 2 weeks or whenever it drops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. And the Snapzone YouTube channel, you can check out. I'm doing stuff for them still. Pretty much 3 videos a week. Day 1 decks for the new card, meta tier list stuff, and then the infinite decks of the week. So if you hit infinite with a deck you think is cool, or if you're making it for your first time or whatever, if you want to at me or Snapzone on Twitter, it helps us kind of see the decks so we can get some decks to put into the community spotlight video.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Very cool.
And I included all those links in the chat, the Snapzone YouTube, your
Thank you.
Twitter, and your YouTube as well, Zombies.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Wolf.
All
Where
right.
can folks find you?
I'm on Twitter at NateWolfeTCG. It's NateWolfeTCG. Playing some Hearthstone sometimes, playing some Snap. And but mostly active on Twitter. It's kind of where all the people hang out. You can see my terrible banner up there. It was created using the help of Photoshop Beta AI on Friday night. It was one of the most horrific things that I've ever experienced. It was really something else. But
I was there, can confirm.
I didn't want to pony up the extra cash to play Diablo 2 days early, but I'll be getting it for sure. I've played all of the other Diablo games minus the mobile version, but played one.
You didn't miss much there.
I heard it was great, but that the microtransactions kind of killed the game.
Monetization ruined it. Like you can't have paying for power in a game like Diablo where the whole game is trying to power up your character. It doesn't work. Some games you can get away with it. Diablo, you really can't, and it's kind of funny because Blue and I played that when it first came out, and the game itself was actually fun aside from it was just like they made the gearing absurd at the end level. But I saw something I thought was so funny. It was like a month or two after it released, there was like the #1 guy on some big server, and he paid so much money that he couldn't get into games with people anymore because he was too high above them. So he invested probably tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh my God.
And he couldn't even play the PvP that he spent all this time getting powerful for because he was too pay to win to where the game wouldn't match him with normal people. And at that point, I'm just like, that. It's so sad, but it's so kind of funny. That was like the end result of such a crazy microtransaction system.
Yeah. Anyways, I did play the original Diablo way back in the day and the expansion for that. I played Diablo 2 in the expansion, Diablo 3 in the expansion, and so there's no way that I can't play Diablo 4.
It's good too. It's if you like Diablo games at all, in my opinion, you owe it to yourself to play Diablo 4. It's probably I got access on Thursday, and what's today? Sunday. It's hard remembering the amount of things I've done in between Thursday and Sunday that have not been Diablo 4.
Without spoiling it, can you just tell me how was the storyline? Because I
enjoyed it. I
thought
the story was really fun. I tweeted out about it today. It was, in my opinion, it was probably my favorite of the Diablo.
I'm excited because I felt like 3's was just a little bit lackluster. Like 3 as a game was beautiful and it was fun. Yeah, but
3's story was very tropey and obvious, and I thought this one was a lot more fun. And I think the game feels a lot more grounded to like a gritty setting, whereas 3 wasn't quite as dark and gritty with it.
It was actually 3 was very kind of polished and it was beautiful, but it got a little cartoony, and so I was excited to see them.
This is much more like D2. It's not as cartoony. It's this gritty, dark world, but I really like the story, and I found myself very impressed by both the voice acting and just the music and sound effects. Because the first day I played on stream, so I was listening to music and talking to friends and whatever. But the second day, I played without any of the distractions or anything else going on, and I really got into the sound and the story, and I found it very immersive. I thought it was really good. I really only have one minor complaint, and it's a small thing, but it's mainly just slightly spoilery. So
Well,
we'll wait to talk about
we'll
it.
revisit it later. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter at NateWolfeTCG. It's NateWolfeTCG, and I also do a Hearthstone podcast, wild format Hearthstone podcast every Friday with Electric Sheep City and Hydralisk. And you can find us here on this channel at Born to Be Wild, or at Born to Be Wild HS. And yeah, I've got some other content that I'm kind of working on. Looking at doing some potential lore episodes for Marvel comic stuff. I've been a comic book nerd since I was like 10 years old, or maybe younger than that. And recently picked up Marvel Unlimited and been reading a ton of comics, kind of getting back into it. And I'm excited to work on that. It's a ton of work. Like Zombies could tell you, I think your lore episodes are phenomenal. It made me kind of want to do one. And I was like, let me try my hand at this. And
you don't realize how much time it takes until you like sit down to do it, and you're like, oh, this is what I need. And then you go and do this stuff, and it's like, it's very involved. I wish it's a very satisfying thing to work on. But there's a reason I don't do a ton of them, and it's not because I don't want to do a ton of them. It's because it just takes so much time.
Between the research and the writing, it's taken the better part of like a full week outside of my full-time job, and I'm still not done with it yet. And it's like, oh my gosh. But I think it'd be cool like once it's done. And so we'll see. Like if I can pull one out and it turns out okay, maybe I'll do more. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
I'm excited to. I think the lore space is pretty criminally underrated right now.
It's because it's hard to do, man.
Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons
especially
why.
to do it right, and it's like to try to fit in the pertinent things but still be succinct is very difficult. But I think there's a space there, and I watched some other ones that people had done, and there's definitely space for it. That's for sure. But trying to be timely with the releases is something different, because it's time consuming, and I'd much rather do it right than do it fast. And so
that's if I have one piece of advice, it's don't stress release dates, or like. Do it when you think it's ready, not because you want to time it with something. Like I was lucky and was able to time the Jeff release well, but the Arrow one was totally on a whim, and same will be with the Wave one whenever I get it finished. And I think it's better to do it when it's done rather than doing it because you feel like you need to do it by a certain date. Because I'll be honest, I don't think it makes a crazy difference in terms of like, maybe you'll get slightly more people, but I think people will be interested in, if it's a seasoned character, they'll probably be interested for that in that character for most of the season.
Well, maybe
longer. So it's like
so the first one will be on the Ghost Spider, aka Spider Gwen, which is actually be kind of funny, seeing as the card is not super playable upon release as you're waiting for more of the Spider-Verse cards to come out. So
maybe it benefits you if it doesn't come out right away, because more people will be interested in the card in like 3 weeks instead of tomorrow. I don't know.
Well, maybe it buys me a little bit of time then. But anyways, but I'm excited to be here. I always love talking about Snap and comic books and all that stuff. So thank you for having me. Very much appreciate it.
Don't worry. Spider Ghost will be playable when they nerf Galactus. That'll be the thing that makes it playable.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All right, Blue.
You can find me on Twitter. I included the link in the chat. Twitter.com/BLUTRANE. For as long as I can stomach being on the platform, which is getting more despicable by the passing day. But it still has the most reach and the most people, so it's what keeps me coming back. You can also find me on Discord. I'm in a number of Discords, but most importantly, I am in the Born to Be Wild Discord, which is the Discord for the Born to Be Wild podcast, but it also has a wonderful Snap section that's active with a lot of wonderful people that you've probably seen on Ladder or in the community. So feel free to engage with me there as well.
Thanks,
guys.
Cool.
And thank you for being accommodating to my schedule, which will probably continue to be a bit wonky, but as long as we're flexible on the weekend, should be able to, I guess, work around it. And thank you, Nate, for making me my sick avatar that I'm using on Twitter and Discord as well. Nate makes all my avatars for me. because he's much more talented in the visual arts than I. But I think you've outdone yourself with this one. It's subtle, but
I didn't do much, but
sometimes less is more.
Sometimes less is more. Yes. So always happy to find a good reason to Photoshop anything for a good cause, and Fat Rainbow Pikachu is definitely a good cause. So.
Oh, he's so squishy. It's so good.
Yep. He's a big fellow.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us live here on Twitch. We really appreciate it. And so till next time, keep it Cosmo.
Keep it Cosmo.
Keep it Cosmo. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Enough said, bub.